there is an epidemic going on at the moment. And no, I'm not talking about the coronavirus, I'm talking about the obesity epidemic. Welcome to the channel. This is Johnny, Grow Strength and X. How are we doing today? So I hope you guys are well, and of course I hope you guys are staying safe from the pandemic that is the coronavirus at the moment in time. And I hope you are staying safe and staying at home so we can all get back to the gyms quicker. However, there is an epidemic that's been going on for years and years and years, and it has been waging war on the NHS, on the health service, on pretty much everything. And that is the obesity epidemic. Now, the obesity epidemic is cause for heart disease, diabetes, hypertension of the heart, all the underlying health conditions that currently the coronavirus is unfortunately taking a lot of the victims from. And yes, age is a factor as well, but what we want to do is be as healthy as possible. And when I say as healthy as possible, there are more than 15 million people dying a year from the obesity epidemic, and that is amazingly high. So what are we going to do about it? Well, there's 5 keys to Johnny's successful plan of how to, especially during this time. This is why I've done this video. This is why you guys on Instagram wanted this video, is because we want to get you the healthiest we can and get you the fittest we can, and still looking good for that summer bod. So how do we do that? Well, there are 5 keys to this, and we'll go over the first point now. Point number 1, psychology is very straightforward. We need to set up a form of routine to get your exercise in per week, and to also get your food in per week. And when I say get your food in, I mean get a set routine for your food. It's very simple. Minimum amount of times per week you should be training is 3, minimum. And this will keep your metabolism going, it will keep your muscle mass high if you're doing some weights, and of course it will keep your cardiovascular system healthy if you're walking, going on bike rides, doing your burpees, that type of thing. But just make sure you're doing enough of it. So I would say 45-minute sessions, 3 to 5 times a week is perfectly fine for the majority of people. If you want to do it every day, perfect. Just make sure that you're getting enough rest and recovery time in between that. Now, I want you to get yourself a diary right now. So pause the video, come back, and I want you to write out, so if you're off work at the moment, most of us are now, there's only the key workers that are still doing it. So obviously the key workers, hopefully you guys are still in your routine. This video is more for the people who aren't working at the moment. So if you say for instance, you did a 9 to 5 job, I would still like you to get up, if not around a similar time than what you were getting up for when you were getting up for work, and going to bed at a similar time. So keeping that routine is key. First one is sleep. Sleep is very, very, very important for the psychology. You want your 8 hours a night. We've gone over this before. We've gone pretty much over everything of this before, but I'm putting it into a format that you guys can take away for one whole video. So you want your 8 hours of sleep a night. That keeps your metabolism up. It keeps your stomach function normal. It allows you to be alert. It allows you to be awake, and it allows you to do routine things throughout the day. Now, if you're off kilter, not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, or if you are maybe napping a lot throughout the day because you don't have a lot going on, we'll go into that in point 2. We will just need to get into that routine. That's first and foremost. Then 3 to 5 times a week, exercise, set it up. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, whatever you like, whatever fits around your lifestyle, but do it within a certain time parameter each day. So set yourself a workout for 10 a.m. If you don't like working out in the morning, set it for 2 p.m. Of course, you're not working at the moment, so you can do it before lunch, after lunch, whichever suits you. Recommendation is to do it 2 hours before or 2 hours after eating though. Next phase, pre-planning your food. So psychology of food, we want to get a couple of cookbooks together. Those cookbooks can be anything from a pinch of nom to Joe Wicks' cookbook to just a general cookbook itself. As long as you know what kind of calories you're eating, which will take us to a point later on. But first, we're going to talk about this. So you want to set it up so you can batch cook 4, maybe 6 meals or even 8 meals in one go. Then you can put some in the freezer, put some in the fridge, and you can batch cook another set of meals and batch cook another set of meals. Now you've got a whole week planned in one day. So that could be your Monday, for instance, or your Sunday. You could set up your batch cooking. If that doesn't work for you and you want to make fresh ingredients every day, Monday to Friday, set it up. 11 a.m, I'm going to start doing this meal. And I'm going to do it for 2 meals, afternoon and night. Or set your lunch up whilst you're setting your dinner up at the same time. So you could do 11 a.m, set your meal up, and then you could also have your lunch. So in other words, you're getting 2 for 1. So it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you can stick to the routine of doing it. You do that, repeat, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or, like I say, you batch cook several amounts of food. If you're unsure of what to eat, again, buy several cookbooks, get inspired. The reason why people don't eat healthy food is because they don't know what healthy food looks like that is tasty. They always assume that healthy food is broccoli, rice and chicken, and that is just not the case at all. And a lot of people have that misconception, so they just eat pizzas and burgers. It's as simple as that. And final note for this psychology. Do not, if you miss a day, let the whole week go. You've still got 6 days left. So don't worry if you slip up. This is normal, this is natural, and it's okay to slip up every now and again. But make sure for the rest of the week you carry on as if nothing else has happened. It was just one little blip. That is point number 1. Point number 2. That is your NEAT. Are you neat? Are you neat enough? We have gone over this one before. I'm sure many other fitness people have, but it's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. In short, it means what are you doing throughout the day that isn't included with your exercise. So washing, ironing, hoovering, that type of stuff. That's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So what do we do there? Essentially, we need to burn more calories by doing more throughout the day. So during your 9 to 5, in between your workouts, in between cooking your food, we're not just sitting down watching Netflix. We're using this day to utilize the key in order to stay healthy. So during the 9 to 5 period, you can make sure you do your washing, cleaning. Obviously, you want to disinfect a lot of things. You want to be cleaning a lot more at the moment because the coronavirus does stick to the clothes. So make sure you're washing your clothes almost daily. And of course, make sure that you are, cleaning your pots and pans, etc., so they're not infesting on germs, etc., etc. We want to make sure that we are sticking to a non-exercise routine as well. So during that 9 to 5, I would like you to, back again, get your diary out. I would like you to slot in where you want to do your ironing, slot in where you want to do your cleaning, slot in where you want to do your shopping. And instead of driving to the shops, because you've got so much time on your hands, if you can carry them back, or even if it does take a couple of goes, maybe you could both go together if you're in a partnership, or you've got your kids, maybe you can get them to all carry a bag each. And yes, maybe it's not the best idea going in too much of a group, but as long as you're with your family, that's perfectly acceptable within the rules. So why don't you walk to the shops, as well as your one daily exercise, or you can count that as your daily exercise if it's really, really far, if it's a few miles, plus you're carrying a heavier load of the bags, so it's burning off more calories yet again. Also, type of things you can do in your house. If you're moving up and down the stairs quite often, by actioning something that requires you to go up and down the stairs quite a lot, then great, do that too. This sounds weird, but also if you are bored and you don't want to do, just sit down watching Netflix, obviously that is a good thing. Maybe do after 5 o'clock. Maybe do a puzzle or play a game, play an active game, something that requires the mind to stimulate. Play a game of chess, for instance. I know it's not necessarily burning loads of calories, but it's keeping the brain and the psychology of your brain stimulated, so you're not going mental. So it's a good way to occupy your mind. Read a book, do a puzzle. Like I say, there are so many things. Find something that you enjoy doing or a skill-based exercise where maybe you're doing like martial arts, like check my old video out from yesterday. Or was it the day before? I can't remember now, sorry. Maybe I need to read a little bit more. So you want to do something of that nature. So set yourself that routine, Monday 9 till 5. With exercise from 1 and food from 1, and then 2, set up your neat energy. That's those 2 done. Point number 3. Okay, the most important one for actually losing weight now in itself is being in a calorie deficit. Now you hear that term thrown around so much, and what the hell is a calorie deficit? Because a lot of people who aren't in the fitness world might not understand what that means. And simply what it means is you're burning off more calories than you're taking in. So as long as your calories are lower than the amount of your maintenance range of what you burn off per day naturally, then you will lose weight. However, we want to make sure that this is right. We want to make sure we're doing it in a healthy way, so it's not affecting your psychology, and also it's not affecting your weight loss too much, that it's actually affecting your physicality. So we want you as healthy as possible, but also losing weight. Now, what is the healthiest range in order to lose weight? So there are some studies that say up to 500 calories in a deficit. However, I would say the safer one is anything from 1 to 300 calories in a deficit from your calorie maintenance range. Now, what is your maintenance range? There are simple calculators you can do online. It's called the BMR calculator. So you can do an average calculation on that. But yes, again, it's an average calculation. So it doesn't mean that it's perfect for you. It's based on the average person for your height. You may not be the average person. You may be slightly overweight. You may have different genetics. You may have more muscle mass. There are so many reasons why you might need 100 more or 100 less, or even a couple hundred more or less calories. So I'll give you an average for the male, and I'll give you an average for the female per day. So the average male who's 5'10" in the UK is around about 13 stone, or around about 82, 83 kilos. And they require around about 2,500 calories a day as their maintenance range. Now take that as a base level. If you're taller or shorter, you might want to reduce it by 100, maybe add it by 200. Pardon me. And if that's your maintenance level, that's great. So start off at the required guideline level. If you're a female and you're 5'5", the average guidelines for a female is 2,000. However, I would say that it's more like 1,800 to 1,900 as a maintenance range for most women, because unfortunately these templates were set up around about in the 50s, and people were more active during the 50s. So I believe that the maintenance range would have been slightly higher based on people's activity levels. Now, if you want to set yours at, say, initially 1,800 calories as a maintenance range, please start off at the maintenance ranges. Do not go straight for the deficit, because if you've been overeating for some time and you are obese, it will be very difficult to go from A to B. So you might even want to start, first thing to do is, if you're an obese person or if you're severely overweight and you've got food addiction, just cut out a little bit of rubbish. Doesn't have to come, don't cut out all rubbish at all. Just cut out 1 day a week for now, over the 7-day period. Just eat really healthily, just 1 day a week. Then the next week, eat 2 days healthily, 3 days healthily, 4 days healthily, 5 days healthily. Just keep building it up week by week. Now, this is a long process, but we might be in the house for quite some time, 16 weeks, maybe more. So what do? We've got a long time to develop it. And like I said, if you fail one day, it doesn't mean you fail the rest of the days. So please, please, please stick to your plan, even if you mess up on one of the days. If you've already in a good calorie range and you want to lose a lot, just a little bit of weight and get back to your normal weight, that's absolutely fine. Be in a calorie deficit of about 200 calories, maybe 100 calories to start. And that way you will lose weight gradually. Maybe a pound, maybe 2 pounds per week. If you're losing any more than that, it's too fast and you're probably not getting enough nutrients in. And then what's going to happen is you're going to go and slip back into your old routine. So make sure the calorie deficit is very slight. But for the first couple of weeks, stick at a maintenance range for all. So for a male, 2,500 calories if you're 5'10". average it out due to your height and weight. If you are slightly different, use the BMR calculator. Same for the women. 2,000 calories is an active woman. 1,800 calories, let's say, is an unactive woman or lesser active. And stick to 1,800 calories and dip to 1,600 calories when you are, perhaps needing to go down into that deficit, so you're finally able to lose a bit of weight. Then it's just continuous staying at it. That's it. There is nothing else to it. It's just stick at it. Some days your weight will fluctuate, but don't worry about that. Your weight will fluctuate throughout the process. As long as it's going mostly down, it's going to go in a wave like this. So that's fine. Point number 4, macro and micronutrients. So in essence, what are macro and micronutrients? Well, macronutrients are your fats, proteins, and your carbs. And your micronutrients are your juicy vitamins A, D, C, E, K, all that juicy good stuff. So what are vitamins? We know this already. Vitamins are to keep the immune system up. They're, obviously you want that during this period of time. They're good for bone density. They're good for muscle regeneration. They're good for your brain. There's so many reasons why you should have all these type of things. But we'll mostly go into the macronutrients because we all know eating a salad and eating vegetables is great. We just put that in our foods as much as possible, which will go back to the point 1 of building it into your food diary. Eat something you enjoy, of course, that is the main thing. But make sure that you get all of those good vitamins in. So if you don't like vegetables, put them in a stew. If you don't like fruit, maybe splice them up into a bowl of porridge. Anything you can do in order to eat your food. If you can enjoy your food, it's sustainable. So what do we need in our macronutrients? And a lot of people would say it's just eat what you can within your calorie range. So that's fine. You can eat within your calorie range. You can eat within your macronutrients range as long as it fits your calories. So that means just eat anything. But we know that eating healthier is better. You can have some bad foods, or like I say, they're not bad foods. Some foods that are less nutritionally dense. But we'll focus on the proteins per grammage, and we'll focus on the amounts that fits within your calorie range. So what do we need to do? For protein, we want 1.7 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So essentially, you just want to fit in, if you're a 5'10" male, you want to fit in probably a minimum of 140 grams of protein per day. And the reason being is because the higher the protein, the more we hold on to our muscles, essentially. So you retain your muscle mass while also trying to be in a calorie deficit. When you're in a calorie deficit, your muscle will be wanting the first thing to go. So make sure your protein is high. And that's the reason why people do that. Protein isn't necessarily the best source of energy because it doesn't really provide energy. That's where carbohydrates come in. Carbohydrates, we want our performance to be high. So in order to perform, we need a good amount of carbohydrates. Opposite of what these fad diets will say, but we'll go into that in a minute. So we need 3 grams per kilo of body weight per day of carbohydrates. And that's exactly why I said, because we want to maximize performance. If you're not got a good amount of energy in your body, if your brain's not got a good amount of carbohydrates, you're going to feel lethargic, tired, you're going to want to nap, you're not going to want to move around. So that A, gets rid of your NEAT, and B, stops you from wanting to work out. And even if you do, it's a terrible workout. Finally, we'll move on to fats, and you want 1.6 grams of omega-3 fatty acid and 1.1 grams of regular fats. And this is based, per kilo of body weight. So this is based upon many studies that are built up into a meta-analysis. This is the best information we know right now in order to maximize hypertrophy, or hypertrophy, as the Americans would say, which is basically maintaining muscle mass and building on muscle, and of course peak performance. So if you want peak performance and peak muscle mass, as well as getting a good calorie deficit, which we've gone into on the previous bit, then that is the best way to do it. However, are you going to be able to track all this information? Perhaps not. So how do we do that? We track it with calorie counters and macro counters. So you've got your MyFitnessPals, LifeSum. You've also got my app down in the description below, which has got the 12-week bodyweight workout program, which is 50% off. So I would recommend that if you're also wanting a plan of action in this as well, so you're not just stuck for routines and just doing willy-nilly type of things online. So yes, that would be the best way to do it. However, if you really are the type of person who hates logging things and it's not for you, then the best thing to do is just have 3 square meals per day. Don't overfill your plate, have it down to here, have 2/3 of it of veg, 1/3 of it of carbs, 1/3 of it of protein. That's as simple as, and keep the plate low. So in other words, you're still getting a good abundance of protein in per day. You're also getting a good amount of vegetables in. And this is the key to keeping the longevity, is make sure that you put a good amount of fats in there too by, making fresh sauces, making fresh ingredients with fats. And of course you can do that through many different cookbooks. I'm not going to tell you what to eat because I believe that's the worst thing you can do. Eat what you enjoy. That is the main key to fat loss. If you cannot enjoy your food, you will not eat that food. Therefore, you'll continue to eat unhealthy or less calorie dense foods. There are no such thing as bad foods because all foods have their place. It's just that some foods are less calorie nutritionally dense than others. So I would still say enjoy your little things. Enjoy your little chocolate bars and your crisps. If you're the type of person though that is getting addicted to that type of stuff, then I would not recommend that. And that takes us into point number 5. So what is point number 5? The closing notes is, if you are addicted to sugary, fatty foods, processed, high trans fats foods, my recommendation is, for some people, you can leave them in and you can enjoy a little bit. For others, I would not recommend to eat these at all. It's kind of like the same as alcoholics. Some people can limit their alcohol down, maybe go full sobriety for a while and then slowly introduce it back in with a healthy, appetite to the alcohol. Sugar is essentially the same thing. Sugar is 5 times more addictive than crack cocaine. I shouldn't have said that on YouTube. Now it's going to get me kicked off for some reason. But it is as 5 times as addictive as the word I just said. So what do? Well, sometimes it's best just to cut it out altogether. Try and cut out all the sugary trans fat treats, so crisps, chocolate bars, that type of thing, and try to do it for up to 90 days. Once you've done 90 days, and this is more about perseverance than anything, so now willpower has a certain key, certain aspect. Now you can actually build on willpower. Willpower is something you can build upon, but we're trying to rely on routine instead of willpower. But in some cases, willpower is an absolute necessity. We have to be accountable and we have to be responsible for ourselves and our actions. Also, we cannot blame ourselves too much if we go wrong. Like I've said before, you want to make sure that you are being accountable, but also if you slip up, not punishing yourself for it. That is the main key. It's a little bit of self-love, as we call it. So for some people, it's not good to have these sugars. And the reason being because if your insulin spikes, which is what happens when you have a lot of sugar, you'll have an insulin crash. And then, of course, after that crash, your ghrelin, which is the hormone that tells you that you're hungry, will hit again, and it will strike again and again and again and again, because your body keeps thinking that it's hungry. When it crashes, it thinks it's going into survival mode and it needs more carbohydrates to live. And also there is a hormone called leptin. That is a hormone that makes you feel full or can give you the feeling of fullness. Now that gets cut off when you have too much sugar as well. So I'm not saying sugar is bad for you, but for some people, it may not necessarily be a good thing. So I would recommend cutting out all sugar, at least for 90 days. And then maybe you can reintroduce it back into your diet after that. Now that would be key in order for a good amount of fat loss. Of course, if you stick to all these components, I would recommend saving this particular video to your watch list. Come back to it, because I know this is a lot of information to take in, but this is the 5 top keys of being able to lose weight from a psychological aspect and also from a physiological aspect, just from dieting and making sure that you have a good general lifestyle and routine. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you've seen it all the way to the end, because I know this will be helpful for most of you out there. There'll be a small percentage of people this might not work for, and unfortunately due to cognitive behavioral therapy, it doesn't work for everyone, but it works for most. The same with any particular diet. There is no perfect diet. There is one that suits your lifestyle the best. Now, the only one fad diet, I would say, that would be maybe helpful in a time like this is a fasting diet. And what is a fasting diet? It's very simple. It is where you eat in a certain allotted time period, and then you're not allowed to eat outside that time period. So let's say between the times of 12 till 5, you're allowed to eat. After that, you're not allowed to eat again till 12 the following day. Now, it allows you to eat as much food as possible in that period of time, which is very difficult, because if you're eating 1,500 calories over a 5-hour period, you can get quite full, because essentially that's 2 meals, and then you might not want to eat anymore. So the whole prerequisite to losing weight on a fasting diet is just because you don't have a lot of time to eat, and when you do eat a lot of food in one go, it makes you feel very full. So that's the reason why I think fasting could work for people who are having sugar addictions. It just tells you when to eat, when not to eat. It's a good program. It's a good routine to get into, especially if you're what we call a snacker. So that would be the only time I would recommend it during this 16-week period or longer for, losing weight during this coronavirus time. But once you get back into a working routine, I'd recommend not doing the fasting diet and get back to eating 3 to 4 square meals per day, or even 2 meals per day if it suits your lifestyle. Remember, if it doesn't suit your lifestyle, you're not going to do it. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. I'm going to leave you guys there. And like I say, watch that video back if you need to. And I hope you guys get on really well. Comment below if you are really, really struggling, and we can go into it further. See you in the next one.